Greetings, restorative justice and indigenous communities at Vermont Graduate and Law School. What is going on, people? It is an honor to be with you. My name is Dr. Thomas James Reed. I go by TJ. My Oneida name is Leguedio. It means he is a good man in Oneida. And I'd like to introduce myself in Oneida, if that's okay with you all right now as well, too. So here we go. Sagoli, Nadioliwis, Skanagoga, Skanago, Wogyuktani Wagitalota, Oneida Aga ni Ogwe ni Leguedio ni Yogyuks. I just said in Oneida, greetings, what is the news? Are you with peace? I am with peace. I am Turtle Clan. I am people of the Standing Stone. I am Oneida. My Oneida name means he is a good man. Picking back up in English, it is phenomenal to be with you all. I cannot wait to learn from each and every one of you this semester. Yes, that's right, each and every one of you. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you, you all. I'm talking to you, Mishi, Carolina, Sylvie, Ainsley, Brandon, William, Samuel, Joellen, Xiao, Marissa, Rebecca, Anastasia, Tiffany, Greta, Bessie, Sharon, Jacqueline, Carrie, Eleanor, Davika, Zachary, Caroline, and Edward. I believe that brings us to, and Sarah as well too. Grateful to have everybody here in the class and really looking forward to learning from each and every one of you this semester. I know it's asynchronous, but I really do try to make it feel like we're in community together, that we're learning alongside one another. And really the name of the game for this class, it's respect and sharing. I don't expect you to agree with everything I say or what someone else in the class says, but I do expect you to have these principles of respect and sharing. Lots to get through today, but as we get started, let's hop into the syllabus so I can just show you all what I'm talking about here as we're going through. So as I magically pull up the syllabus here, voila, here we go. We're January 16th to March 5th, asynchronous. Office hours are Thursdays from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or by appointment. So if you're busy during that time, you cannot make it, do let me know. You can also reach out to me by email. So we'll be going over restorative justice in indigenous communities, and we'll look at some of the overview of the topics we're talking about in here in a little bit. For your grade overall, I really want you all to focus on your participation. So each week you're going to have these modules to respond to do all the readings, to watch the videos, listen to the video I create. And then also you can either respond with your own video each week, a 2 to 5 minute video. And you're going to have an introduction video for the week one, which is in addition to all the other videos. But so for week one, you're going to have the introduction, and then you're also going to have the module response from the readings, the videos, and lecture that I'll be giving. Then you're going to give either a 2 to 5 minute video response or a 5 to 10 sentence written response. If you are more of a writer or if you're an oratory person, you can play to your strengths either way there. So do let me know. Really looking forward to learning from everyone. This class is what you put into it. So whether you are a JD student, you're a master's student, a certificate student, or you're a human being who is worthy of love, which is all of you, I expect you to try to contribute to this class as best you can and to have a responsibility to share and learn from one another. So your final participation grade is about 35% here as well too. So that brings us up to 70% total. And that's going to be a 7 to 10 minute recorded video of really what stood out to you from this class as well too. So it's going to be this idea that's it can be anything that really stands out to you, that it's one of your biggest takeaways from the class for 7 to 10 minutes here. So you can read more about the description of it here as well too for the assignment. But really, I just want it to be something that you're interested in, that you've taken away from this class, or you want to contribute to this class. And then also, in addition to creating a video, I want you to watch other people's videos as well too, to learn from them, as we are co-collaborators here in this experience. 1-page infographic of what you learned. And really what I want this tool to be is it's just a 1-page. If you are a writer, it could be a brief if you wanted to write a memo that way. If you're an artisan or an artist, I really encourage you to lean into your strengths and to create something, whether it's written or digitally, whatever you can do. What I want this to be is, as you're going through life and you're remembering, what did I do during that time, during that 7 weeks? What were some of my big takeaways? So I want this to be a visual or written reminder of your big takeaways from this 7 weeks as well too. And we're all going to have different takeaways. You have a different lived experience than I have as well too. In Oneida, we have this phrase that says, let's put our minds together, so be it in our minds. So I'm looking forward to putting my minds together with each and every one of you and learning from you all in this infographic. As you can see, it's due near the end of the semester there, as is the final presentation, due before March 3rd on that Friday at midnight, and also March 3rd for that Friday at midnight. We'll try to go for the time zone you're in. So imagine most of y'all are Eastern Standard Time. I'm over here in the Pacific Coast, Pacific Standard Time on the West Coast, I should say. two books you have right here. Right here, Navajo Nation as Peacemaking, really powerful book. You're going to look at people like Chief Justice Robert Yazzie and look at this idea of taking the court system, instead of having it be a vertical system, he flips it horizontally, puts the courtroom in a circle, and has this notion of one of the biggest insults you could say to someone, what Chief Justice Robert Yazzie talks about for the Dene, is this idea that this person acts as if they have no relatives. So the idea is that we are all related and seeing each other as relatives as well too. So some of the principles, you'll see a lot of the readings from this book as well too, which you'll see in the syllabus for when to do when. And also this book here, Justice is Healing. It's a amalgamation, a combination of a number of different writers and talking about the power of restorative justice, the power of circles, peacemaking, and number of different perspectives. So really, really powerful text right here. I'd really encourage you all to dive into, get a lot of big takeaways here as well. So those are your two big texts, required texts. Other ones will be made available on our Canvas website. You can see our course YouTube playlist to check out. Also the GroupMe link to stay in conversation with us all. So each week it'll be like a little 3 to 7 sentence response about a little weekly prompt I'll give you all. So again, that's going to be that experiential learning. So we're doing the thing to learn about the thing in terms of being circles, this restorative mindset, coming together in community, building community. So for the assignments here, you're going to see what we have to read for this week 1, some videos to watch as well too. Here, your reminder for your action items, what to do. So you're creating that introduction video in addition to a video as well too to the actual material that you're learning this week. So you can see week 2 has some similar, it's going to be the similar context, a similar format, I should say, for the whole semester. So in terms of the readings, the videos, and then your action step to do as well too. Week 3, similar format as is week 4, 5, 6, and 7. Just a reminder to get those final deliverables then as well too. And each week as well too, I would definitely encourage you all to look at each other's responses as well too. And I'll try to incorporate those into our conversation as well too. I'm having with this asynchronous lecture as well. So just know that your words do matter. They are being read, they are being reviewed, and that we're learning from one another. I consider myself a lifelong learner. I have my PhD and I'm a tenure track faculty at California State Long Beach in American Indian Studies or Native Studies, but I do see myself as a lifelong learner, just like I hope you all see yourself as lifelong learners as well too. Let's keep on keeping on, people. Right now, we're going to do an overview of what you can expect for the semester. These are some of the big takeaways that I hope you'll get after taking this class. Just going to start the slideshow here from the start. All right, so you're going to describe some of the theoretical underpinnings of traditional tribal justice using the framework of the Navajo or Dene, which means the people of the Navajo Nation's peacemaking process as an example. We just talked about some of that earlier in this lecture. Explain legal pluralism, and this notion of whose jurisdiction, whose sovereignty. Is this going to be the tribal nation's sovereignty? Is it going to be the city, the county, the state, the federal government? Whose sovereignty is it? And you'll see it depends on the context, depends on the situation, but looking at some of that overlapping legal pluralism. Also, summarize the legal status of indigenous governments in the United States according to federal and state laws, and identifying the corresponding governmental powers that derive from each category. Approximately 574 federally recognized tribes here in the United States, each acting as sovereigns according to the Indian Commerce Clause, which is Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3 of the Constitution, is that the United States is to interact with states and among foreign nations, as well as the tribal nations, as these Indian nations. So it outlines them as sovereigns in the United States Constitution, outlines that relationship as well too. And there are hundreds of tribes that are state recognized, and another hundreds of tribes that are not recognized. That even though they may have a language, they may have a people, they may have a very a history, and very much still being here today. Some of these people are not recognized at all in terms of tribes. Recognize the structures of indigenous restorative justice systems, some of these structural features, and each system is going to be different depending on the tribal nation if they used this system and what it looks like. Explain the Navajo peacemaking process you'll learn about in that book as well and through our conversation. Identify examples of indigenous restorative justice systems and describe how they deliver justice to indigenous communities. Definitely a big theme of the course. We'll be visiting that idea frequently. How the Navajo legal system incorporates traditional Navajo customary law, using the example of the Peacemaker Court, and already, again, outlined that with Chief Justice Robert Yazzie, having it be in a circle and flipping that system from a vertical to a horizontal. Describe the ways in which indigenous customary law protects indigenous culture. I know I did my dissertation on Oneida college lacrosse players and our sacred perspectives of the game of lacrosse. As according to us as Oneida people, there's a game of lacrosse being played in our creation story, and it's very sacred to us, very important to us. When we die as Oneida people, we're believed to be buried with our wooden lacrosse sticks because we're still playing it on the other side. So the idea is that by one of the best ways to preserve culture is also by sharing it with others. By me explaining it to you right now, by me taking the time to educate you all and you educating yourselves on it, this is one of the best ways to preserve it as well too, that me and my 12 other Oneida co-collaborators found. Explain and analyze the potential of the Oceti-Sakowin-Oyate Truth and Reconciliation process in South Dakota, another specific system we'll be looking at. Identifying models of restorative justice implemented by external authorities, whether that be a presidential proclamation, an act of Congress. We're going to determine positive attributes and shortcomings of an external restorative justice model when it's being pushed from the external as opposed to being brought up within the internal. And I'll give you the short answer there is it's always best whenever people are able to be the surgeons that are able to repair themselves, and people are able to have that ownership, empowerment over having those answers be brought up within their own community is oftentimes going to be the path of least resistance. And one of the things that will oftentimes have the best cultural match. Compare the efficacy of internal and external restorative justice approaches using the Bears, Ears, and Hawaii examples and internal models from previous modules. Outline at least 3 RJ models that address specific harms to Indigenous peoples. Identify the mechanisms by which subject-specific restorative justice approaches resolve, address, or repair historic harms as well too. An example of this as well too is I was introduced to talking circles restorative justice specifically by my cousin Eddie Cornelius Groff, and she used these as we would come together in circle to talk about some really heavy things. You may or may not know about the Indian boarding schools, in which we call in the United States. In Canada, these are referred to as the Indian residential schools. Carlisle Indian School is one of the more famous of these schools. Its motto was to kill the Indian to save the man. This is where my great-grandfather, Anderson William Cornelius, was forced to attend from 1910 to 1913. This is where my great-great-uncle Joshua was killed at Carlisle Indian School. At Carlisle alone, they have 180 tombstones for the children who passed away there, were killed there, and another 13 tombstones for children who are unidentifiable, that they're not even able to tell who the child was when they died. So really heavy, to say the least, on an atrocious, horrible stain on this continent's history. And how do we move forward from that? And the idea is one of these things to repair this historic harms, right? This historic injustice where many of my ancestors and other people who went through this had never had the chance to grieve, never had the chance to properly to stop and reflect and to allow themselves to feel what actually happened. So by having these conversations in circle, we're able to support each other. And it's a notion that when I'm telling you even right now through this story is that I'm not just carrying it alone anymore. Now it's like we are carrying this story together as well too. So it lessens the burden for one individual when we're able to come together and put our minds together and carry that together. So we fight intergenerational trauma with intergenerational strength and intergenerational resiliency. And circles is one of those powerful ways of doing it. It's creating this container, holding this space to do so. And it is a powerful tool. And I've seen it and witnessed it myself for healing, helping bring peace to myself, helping bring peace to others as we work to bring peace to the world. Design a restorative justice model to address a specific social problem or harm, so that as we can be perhaps inspired or using others as archetype or models as you think about how you can implement this work either in your own lives or in different communities that you're aware of. Research an Indigenous restorative justice approach and identify similarities and differences with at least 3 RJ models from previous modules. So as a compare and contrast, just seeing how each are unique and some will have similarities as well. Identify structural features of selected RJ model or approach. Explain how the approach works and whether it is enforced through a tribal court or some other tribal authority or not. Oftentimes when I'm a practitioner and I'm doing this work, oftentimes using it as an option instead of mediation, instead of going through perhaps other systems that are in place. This is exactly how I'll pitch it. When we're going through the system, I'll say, hey, we can try to go through this voluntary process of this restorative approach. If it does not work, or if people do not want to be a part of this, then we can always defer back to the current system we have in place. But if everyone's willing to, we can give this a shot in terms of trying to address this. How can we support people while also holding accountability as well too, and talking about these harms, needs, recommendations within a community. So oftentimes this will be more and more, there's more tribal courts that are looking back to this approach. As you look at some of this, a text called Mastering American Indian Law, and it talks about how different tribal nations as they're looking to reclaim, indigenize, decolonize. Their restorative justice is an approach that many different tribal nations had taken in terms of meeting in a circle and making decisions as a community. Very common across different tribal nations. While they may have different languages, may have different regalia, which is their traditional clothing, have different traditions and ceremonies and spiritual ways, some of those similarities may overlap when it comes to circles and circle practices. So a chapter you're reading this week is one that yours truly has put together for you all. It's called A Critical Review of the Native American Tradition of Circle Practices. So do check that out. I know it's fairly lengthy, but there's some different ideas and quotes in there. You can find what's relevant to you. Take the learning that works for you, leave it what doesn't, but hopefully there's something in here that can spark some interest or spark a conversation that you can hop in the weekly discussion. We can learn from each other in this as well too, as we put our minds together. So be it in our minds, as we say in Oneida. Talked about those required texts. Here are just a few examples of the different things. I know for the Oneida, we use an eagle feather, which we'll talk about in a second. For the Apache burden basket, so the Apache people would have this burden basket still to this day, the idea that you put in your figurative burdens as you're going around in a circle. Or for instance, a Lakota sacred pipe, very sacred ceremony as well too. Oftentimes the person leading the ceremony would start by like packing this pipe as well too. It would rotate in a clockwise position and then taking pulls from the pipe, then would pass this to the left. One of my great uncles had a chance to be a part of one of these sacred pipe ceremonies with the Lakota. And they informed me that it would go from nighttime until the next morning as well too. That was my great uncle Leonard who taught me that as well. So for the eagle feather here, I have this eagle feather box that my great uncle Leonard made for me. Speaking of great uncle Leonard, really grateful for that. Eagle feathers for many different traditional peoples, for different native peoples, it's very sacred, right? An eagle feather. An eagle it's the bird that flies the highest. It's a liaison between us and the spirit world. I'd recently found that a condor, I guess, there's a certain type that flies higher, but it's just the idea that the eagle, I'm told, is the only bird that will fly above the rain clouds when it's raining as well too. And there's something spiritual about that and that symbolic metaphor as well. But the eagle feather, the idea is my grandma, Eleanor Bailey, taught me that whoever is holding the eagle feather cannot tell a lie. So whenever someone's holding this eagle feather, very sacred, has different spiritual properties. For instance, if you ever get a chance to go to a powwow, or maybe you've been to a powwow or participated in one before, but if you do not know what this is, celebration of drumming and singing from some native peoples, and oftentimes regalia, which is traditional clothing for different native peoples here. The idea is that eagle feathers will be a part of it. So if you're at a powwow, and for instance, the Oneida powwow of Wisconsin that we have around the 4th of July every year, in someone's regalia, if a feather falls off, for instance, off someone's regalia, their clothing, everything stops it from clears the powwow arena. There'll be an elder from a veteran of a foreign war will come in, they'll grab before they pick up the feather, they'll dance at the eagle feather from all 4 directions, north, south, east, and west, until it is safe again to pick up the feather as they're going into the spirit world to see if it's safe to pick up or not. And if it is, then the elder will pick it up, they'll raise it up, everyone will applaud. And as they're doing this, they're playing a very specific drum and song, an eagle feather song. Oftentimes I've seen this done before where out of nowhere, a couple of eagles will start flying overhead as it happens. Very spiritual, very powerful process. The elder will then have the choice to either to give the dropped eagle feather back to the person who dropped it or to hold on to it themselves because they recognize that person does not realize how sacred and how important that responsibility is to take care of this eagle feather. So as we're in circle right here as well too, I oftentimes, this is how I was taught using it in my family as an eagle feather. This is for this Oneida peoples. And we'll talk more about the Haudenosaunee, which is the Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca, later the Tuscarora, using a form of peacemaking, a circle process to come together as still one of the longest running democracies to this day, since August 11th, 1142 AD. But I will teach you what I know and teach my experience as well too, and also what I've learned from others as well too. Always trying to be respectful, always trying to give reverence. Oftentimes, I'm 33 years old, I'm talking about things that are oftentimes taught solely by elders in the community. I'm by far from an elder. I still have so much to learn from others as well too. I realize how little I know every day. I am doing my best and dedicating my life to learning with respect and love and reverence and to try to heal our world, bring our world together. So I will pass on what I know to you, but I do expect you to try to pass on what you know to me as well too, so we can learn from one another, as this class is going to be whatever we co-create together. Here's an example of our YouTube playlist as well too. You can check it out. And I love a good land acknowledgement as well too. And I like this idea of beyond the land acknowledgement. So for me, I had helped put together this co-stewardship of all state and national parks with indigenous tribal nations from local areas. a change.org had put together. If you're curious to see whose land you're on now, you can look at native-land.ca. And I believe that you all, for Vermont Law School, I believe it's Abenaki and traditional Haudenosaunee lands, if I'm not mistaken. I'm out here in Southern California on the traditional lands of the Gabrielino Tongva, close to the Chumash, and also the Wanyenyo Achiman peoples. So just a reflection of whose land you're on, and then beyond that, of recognizing, I heard it as an example once. I heard this teacher talking about that if you're in a classroom full of people and somebody, a teacher goes to the back of the classroom, takes one of the students' water bottles and brings it to the front. One of the students is like, "Hey, that's my water bottle." They're like, "Okay, I just want to acknowledge that this is this student's water bottle back there." And the student's like, "Yeah, are you going to give it back?" They're like, "No, I don't need to. I already acknowledged it." So think about that, right? Very powerful to make an acknowledgement, but what do we do past the acknowledgement? Yes, we have acknowledged this is all at one point native lands, before colonization, before what we know today as the United States and Canada. Tribal nations, sovereigns existed here for thousands of years, for millennia, since time immemorial, according to many of these tribes, which means since the beginning of time, since the beginning of our understanding of time. What does that mean to these people? So there's this idea that we've already had about, I think there's 80 compacts, 80 agreements so far between different tribal nations and some of these national parks and having this co-stewardship, this co-management of lands. And there's just one idea as we look towards land back. And it's the governor of the Zuni Pueblo we'll talk about later. And I'm paraphrasing here, but they talk about what better form of restorative justice than to allow the people who are traditionally, who are displaced from their lands, allow these traditional people to have part in management, to have part in overseeing and being a steward of their lands. So with that being said, just want to acknowledge that. And I do want to say here, Yawonko, thank you in Oneida. Ganalunkwa means I love you in Oneida. If you have any questions, do reach out to me as I'm on your team. I want you to be successful. I really do. And I know I've been going for a minute here. So thank you very much for your patience. And last but not least here, just going to talk about little old me and talk about something that I feel like you all should know about me as we start this class. You all are about to make videos as well too to introduce yourselves to the class. So I look forward to that as well, your 2 to 5 minute video. So I gave you all my Oneida introduction before as well too. In the top right here, there's a picture of myself wearing regalia. Like I said, I'm Turtle Clan and part of the Haudenosaunee, also known as the Six Nations, and the French called the Iroquois. I have some turtle on my moccasins right there, some turtles here, the wampum belt for the Haudenosaunee, and I'm holding that eagle feather flag. Staying next to my grandmother, Eleanor Bailey, and my cousin, Norma Jean Skinador Primu. So some of my identity as well too, my ethnic identity, I'm English American, Irish American, German American, also Oneida, a dual citizen here of the Oneida Nation, which is also a part of the Haudenosaunee. I have a wife. This is us right here. Her name is Julia Elizabeth Reed. She is amazing, my better half, and brings out the best of me all the time. I have my dogs here. This is Sydney. She's super sweet. Call her Momo for short. And Millie, kind of think of her like Zero from Night Before Christmas, if you know the reference. Well, regardless, good stuff, team. Some of my education, you can look at it more here if you're curious, but went to Pepperdine for my undergraduate, did a program at George Washington University, Native American Political Leadership Program, did my master's from Cal State Long Beach, where I also got my MPA and a certificate in American Indian Studies, got my PhD from University of San Diego, and I recently just audited a Nation Building 1 class at Harvard Kennedy School. A good experience here. A little bit about my professional experience. I was a neighborhood city councilman from 2013 to 2015. In 2014, I interned at the National Congress of American Indians. This is me in the bottom right trying out for the Haudenosaunee National Indoor Team using a wooden stick, right, which is the same one as right here. 2018, I ran for mayor of Rancho Cucamonga, California, population of approximately 175,000. I'm currently a tenure track professor, an assistant professor in American Indian Studies at Cal State Long Beach. I am a trainer at the National Center on Restorative Justice at University of San Diego. I also teach this class, which is as you all know. I am a practitioner, so I do this work as well too out in different communities. I'm a program manager for the Haudenosaunee Nationals Development Team for lacrosse. And in the past, I've taught in a sports and leadership class for master's students at USD. Some dreams I have here. There is a political prisoner since 1975. I believe he's the longest political prisoner we have in our United States history at 47 years. And this is Leonard Peltier. So I have dreams of freeing him, as I believe this would be very restorative to different Native communities and people all over the world, as a number of people have asked for him to be pardoned. I'd love to eventually become mayor, congressperson, senator, president of the United States, and helping to enact legislative change for the greatest good, for the greatest amount of people. And like I said before, I want to help heal our world. So that's it. When I'm all done with this world, I just want to say, I fought the good fight. I tried. Some things I like to do for fun. I love me some video games, like graphic novels, like most board sports, love lacrosse, love language, culture, just learning about my own different languages for my own heritage, as well as other people's languages and culture, just engaging in that mutual reciprocity of respect and sharing. Love movies, TV, and music, love play the drums, and also love to meditate and do yoga, as I believe you want to bring peace to yourself, you got to bring peace to the world. So now it's your turn, people. So I want you all to create those videos this week for this week 1. So you're going to create this video, then you're going to create either another 2 to 5 minute video or a 5 to 10 sentence review of what you all thought of the readings, what you all thought of the videos you're going to watch, and let me know. So introduce yourself, your name, maybe you have a preferred name or a nickname you want to go by. What is your major or career path? If you could wave a magic wand, do anything, maybe you're already doing it. Something we should know about you. What do you want us to know? Out of all the things we want to know, what should we know? What you hope to get out of this class. So again, it's going to be whatever you all put into this class is what you're going to get out of this class. I cannot wait to learn alongside each and every one of you. I think that's it for week 1, people. And that's it. Do reach out to me if you have any questions. Yawanko Ganolunkwa Nugiwa means thank you. I love you. Until next time in Oneida. Take care, class. All the best.